Thank you, alumni, families, and friends, for tuning in to this special conversation between Ginger Ambler, Vice President for Student Affairs, and her son, Mac Ambler, who is a freshman at William & Mary. The past year has challenged us individually and as a community, but we've also seen kindness, generosity, and care for each other. One Tribe, One Day is a day for giving back and paying it forward. Last year, more than 7,000 members of the William & Mary community came together for One Tribe, One Day to focus on community and invest in change. Together, we raised $2.5 million in support of initiatives that will transform teaching and learning and accelerate positive change at William & Mary. This year, we are coming together again from all over the world to celebrate our vibrant William & Mary community. Thank you to all who have donated to William & Mary this year, and specifically those of you who have made a gift today. Gifts of all sizes make a huge difference as we celebrate the unique impact William & Mary has had on each of us. Every single person making a gift on One Tribe, One Day will be counted toward donor challenges throughout the day. When each challenge is met, one or more generous donors will contribute a significant amount to support areas of greatest need at William & Mary. Student Affairs has the possibility of being awarded an additional $15,000 if we exceed in one of several categories. Now, let's join Ginger Ambler and Mac Ambler for a unique conversation between mother and son.
Happy One Tribe, One Day to everyone who's tuning in. It's been an exciting day for the William & Mary community, as it always is, and it's fun to see so much support from all of the alumni and parents and friends. And I'm lucky to be sitting here with my mother, Ginger Ambler. Mom, thank you for all that you do. I know that's been an unusual year, to say the least, but it's been really special sharing, the William & Mary experience with you for my first year, my freshman year. And now that I'm seeing it, as a student myself, I would love to learn a little more about how you view the community and how the university has had an impact on you.
Thanks, Mac. I'm excited to talk to you this way. Thanks.
Yeah. So that being said, I'd like to start us off by asking, how is the student experience at William & Mary different now than it was when you were an undergrad?
It's a great question. I will say that I loved my William & Mary experience. I loved being a student. I loved the courses that I took, the faculty I met, and got to know well the students who are still part of my life now. William & Mary was an incredible experience, and William & Mary today is so much better than William & Mary in the 80s when I attended. I think the things that have remained the same are the commitment to a sense of community, the traditions that are meaningful, that bring people together, the sense of curiosity, and just the spirit of camaraderie with people wanting to live and learn together. That's still the same. What's different, I think, is the breadth of opportunities for students. When I think about the things that you have available to you that I never had, or the things that are more commonplace. For example, when I was a student, students might say to each other, "Are you going to study abroad?" And it's a much more common question now to say, "Where are you going to study abroad?" There's an assumption that that the global perspective is part of the William & Mary experience now. The number of clubs and organizations that you have to join, all those opportunities are phenomenal. I'll just use it as an example. As I was getting ready to graduate, the first a cappella group at William & Mary was being formed. So that is now a vibrant community of many.
We have much more than one.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
Well, that's awesome. So if you thinking back to your time here as a student, what was the coolest thing that you got to do during your time at William & Mary?
I did a lot of really cool things, but I think what stands out for me as the coolest was the European tour that I did with the William & Mary Choir. Mm-hmm. It was the summer between my junior and senior year, and we went on a 38-day tour in Europe where we performed in places like Notre Dame Cathedral and Westminster Abbey, Chartres Cathedral. We even went to Leipzig, East Germany. At that time, it was still behind the Iron Curtain, and the experience of being on a bus, a Westerner's bus going across the border to stay in East Germany was a very memorable experience for sure. The camaraderie with the choir was, that was the best part of it, but the opportunity to sing in so many amazing places. And we even had a chance to lay flowers on the graves of King William and Queen Mary, which is pretty special.
That's really awesome.
It was. Yeah, it was.
That's really, really cool. So, okay. So that was a cool thing. Now, what was something really funny that happened to you? Like a funny story of, college experience that could only happen in college. And it's just something that you look back on fondly and laugh at now.
Well, I think you've heard tell of Dad's friend who owned and lived in a school bus during college. Yes. So your dad and I met at William and Mary. I don't know if we have mentioned that yet, but we were students here together. And your dad had a friend who had a bus. It was painted pale baby blue. And my sophomore year, Dad asked me if I would be his date for the Bryan Complex Heart Dance, which was a philanthropy event. And it was held in an off-campus hotel. Well, it turns out that your dad's job for the heart dance was to drive the blue bus between Bryan Complex and the hotel and back all night long. So Dad was dressed in a suit. He looked very handsome. I had on matching blue dress and pumps, and we spent the evening going up and down Richmond Road in a blue bus, driving people to and from this dance. And the highlight of that was probably the McDonald's drive-through that we hit during one of our passes by.
How romantic.
So that's probably the weirdest thing that happened to me. One of the weirdest things that happened to me.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot. It's, part of the experience. So speaking of Dad, would you mind telling the story of how you two met? And did you know he was the one from the get-go? Was that just clear to you?
No, I didn't know he was the one right from the get-go. But I met your dad because his younger sister, your Aunt Donnie, was a freshman on Monroe 3rd West the year that I was the RA there. So her room was actually right across the hall from mine. And your dad, being a very devoted big brother, which he is, would come over a couple times a week to go with Donnie to lunch or dinner or just to say hi and check in and see how she was doing. So I saw him often. Found out that later he was starting to come by more often, maybe to see me, not just to see her, but he usually caught us both since our rooms were right across the hall from each other. Anyway, so I think when it came time for my sorority pledge dance, I wanted to ask somebody that seemed like a nice guy. Mm-hmm. And your dad seemed like a nice guy. Wasn't looking for anything more serious than that. But so it goes.
And that
30 some years later and 3 children. And that was one of the best dates I ever asked about.
And they all live happily ever after, right?
Right. Of course.
So that was a little bit of your undergrad experience. So not only were you an undergrad at William & Mary, but you also returned for your Ph.D. And I know that was a crazy time for you because not only were you working on a Ph.D. dissertation, but you were also, having me, your third child, at the exact same time. So to talk a little bit on that, what was the subject matter of that dissertation and how did you choose that area of research? And can you just go into detail about that?
Sure. Well, so I was already back. I had been working as assistant vice president for student affairs at that time. And so I was working on my PhD over a long period of time. It took me about 10 years because I was taking mostly one class a semester. Occasionally I'd take 2. Occasionally I'd take none because I was busy having a baby. That was you right in the middle of my coursework. What inspired me in terms of my dissertation research was understanding better about students in college and their experience and what I could learn about students who thrived in college. What I found in the research was there was an awful lot written about and studied about the barriers and the struggles that students encounter during college and how we can help them to overcome those challenges and difficulties. There really wasn't anything that told me what we could learn from students who were thriving, who had high levels of psychological, social, and emotional well-being in college. And I thought, gosh, if I could learn more about the experiences they're having and what it is that's contributing to their well-being, maybe we can craft an environment that promotes more of that for more students. That was my hope. So my dissertation was called Who Flourishes in College? And it looked at the relationship between how students are involved as students in their collegiate experience and their mental health, their well-being.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's wonderful. And it's a better take on it than, what makes students fail. It's, what allows students to really be successful. So
To really thrive.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
all right. So after and during your PhD time, you also worked for someone who I know as Mr. Sam, because I mean, we were all so close, but you worked directly under Sam Sadler. What was that like? Now that there's the Sadler Center. I mean, obviously he was such a big figure for the college. So what was it like working for him?
Sam was,
Still is.
it is, but he was the reason I went into student affairs in the first place. He was Dean Sadler to me because in the 80s, he was Dean of Students. And he was so encouraging of me in my interest in working with college students, and supported me through the decision about where to go to graduate school for my master's degree, which led me to Ohio State. And then when I had an opportunity to come back and work at William & Mary in the job of assistant to the vice president for student affairs, that was my dream job, to come back here for an institution I love, to work for a man who is a leader in the field and one of my personal mentors. And so I ended up working for Sam for 18 years until he retired in 2008. It was a great privilege of my life. And of course, we're still very good friends. Mm-hmm. And pre-COVID, Sam and I will have coffee once a month or so at the Blue Talon. The COVID pandemic has put a little bit of a crunch on our social life. But I look forward to returning those visits because Sam is a dear friend, and he's certainly one of the superstars of William & Mary. He's helped to create this community that we are now. It's a legacy that we're all building on.
Mm-hmm. And it's really great to still have that connection. And I'm sure you appreciate that a whole lot.
It is.
Yeah. So now talking a little more about student affairs, if you had to say, if there were one thing or a couple of things that make you the most proud of your student affairs department, what would that be? And what comes to mind when you think this is what I really am proud to say is true about my department?
There are lots of things that make me proud about student affairs at William & Mary. I think what I'm most proud of is the incredible team of people that are assembled here at William & Mary who care so deeply about you and all of our students and the experiences that you have. They bring incredible expertise, and they work tirelessly in their domains of expertise, whether it's career development or health and wellness or leadership development. All of those areas that are so important to student life are being shepherded by people who are totally committed to the student experience, to your growth and development, to giving you opportunities to be challenged, to be supports for you when you need it, and to help you find opportunities that you might not have expected. So I would say it's the people. That's what I'm most proud of. We've done some incredible things together. The opening of the Integrative Wellness Center, for example, is a real moment of pride because that was a vision that our division shared, and it ties directly into my personal interest, my research interest in human flourishing and resilience, and how we help people to live optimally. Mm-hmm. So I would throw that in there as one of my points of pride too.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. All right, so you have 3 kids, right? And I'm the youngest, and the first 2 did not decide to go to William & Mary. They went elsewhere. But then the third kid, you finally scored, got one of us to come.
I was afraid of being 0 for 3. 0 for 2 was hard. Although in fairness to your brother and sister, they chose the right schools for them. So we can't begrudge them that.
And hey, now you're batting over 300, so you're doing well. So what's it like finally having a kid at William & Mary?
It's awesome. I'm so happy that you're at William & Mary. It's really wonderful to think about, you having this experience that I've watched so many students have in between my time there as a student and now. And I'm so interested in what you're going to choose to study. I know what some of your interests are, but I don't know if that'll remain the same over time. It's fun to see where you're choosing to spend your time. And it's fun to share in something that means so much to me. So having you as part of the William & Mary family is pretty darn cool.
Pretty cool.
I was going to ask you to tell me about what has your experience been like? I mean, you're about to wrap up, hard to believe, your freshman year. So
it's been great. But it's been interesting because it's been COVID semester, COVID year. And it's really been, it's been imperfect, but I didn't need it to be perfect. It's my first year of college. So what I look to get out of it is, a chance to get away from home, a chance to do something a little bit different, to stretch my horizons a little bit and try things, and to go and challenge myself academically. And I've really, I've found that to be my experience so far at William & Mary, which has been a really nice, I mean, I wouldn't say surprise, but a really nice realization that is what I can get out of being at the university. And, some of the things that really stand out to me about being at the college is, first of all, that the student body as a whole, all of my fellow peers, they care about everyone succeeding, not just themselves. And they're very willing to be a source of support for fellow students as we're all kind of collectively going through the struggles and the triumphs of college, which is really nice to have that community. On top of that, I've really loved the fact that, people at William & Mary are so active in community and in extracurriculars and things like that. Like, and it's given me that experience and that opportunity to really branch out and try things. Like, I just recently joined the IT, which is William & Mary's oldest improv group, and I've been really enjoying that. And that's something I never thought I was going to do prior to going to college. But, sometimes you just find a flyer for something and you try it, and it's really fun. And, I do pep band, and, it's just, there are so many opportunities that have been open to me that I didn't think I would have. And on top of that, I've had really great experiences with faculty as well. Like the faculty that I have and that I've learned from this year, I found that they care about you as a student beyond just their class. It's they care about your well-being. Like, to give an example, my freshman seminar professor, Professor Atwater, he tells us all the time that, go easy on yourself. This is a tough time. It's, we're in a time of really low confidence, and it's going to be difficult, but it's going to get better, and you got to trust that it will, and that you've been here before, and that you're going to get out of it again, and you're going to be, you're going to be okay soon, even if it's a hard time. And, just hearing that kind of stuff from a professor is really, really helpful as a student, to know that, these people actually care about you and care about your success outside of just, are you going to turn in my paper or not? So
that's wonderful.
I've really enjoyed that about my experience so far.
That's great. It makes me very happy. Again, not surprised, but it's really gratifying to hear that that's your experience, and that you found people like that in your residence hall and in your classrooms.
Yeah, absolutely. So now to go in a little bit of a different direction.
Yes.
We have a lot of family connection to William & Mary, and that is even beyond just the two of us.
True.
So, taking into account our personal connection to the university and our family's connection, how does that help you see the community as a whole? Does it make you see it a little bit differently, make you appreciate it a little bit more? Can you just speak on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, our connections to William & Mary go back quite a ways. And in fact, the reason I even became interested in William & Mary was because of the deep love that your great-grandmother, my grandmother, had for this place. In fact, I'm wearing her, I don't know if you can see this. Mm-hmm. It's her flat hat key. She was on the editorial board of the Flat Hat, and she gave this to me. Your great-grandmother was class of 1939. And I remember that she never missed a homecoming. And in fact, I found out when I was a student here that the class of 39 actually throws really great homecoming parties, and they have amazing food. So my friends and I were always invited, and we always stopped by to visit. And that was really great. What that told me was that this is a lifelong experience. William & Mary is a lifelong experience, and that the friendships that you make last for a long time. We've had a lot of family members come through William & Mary, aunts, uncles, cousins. Your brother is on the Tribe baseball coaching staff right now. Mm-hmm. And your sister-in-law is in residence life. So I get to see William & Mary not only through my eyes, but through your eyes as a student, and your brother's eyes as a coach, and my daughter-in-law's eyes as a staff member. And that's really enhances my view of the place and my appreciation for all that William & Mary does for students.
Mm-hmm. So outside of familial tradition, William & Mary itself has a lot of its own traditions that we all, as students and I'm sure as faculty and staff really, and alumni and parents and everybody really loves to either reminisce on from their time as a student or really look forward to every year. And that, we have so many different events that happen throughout the year. So if you had to pick one thing that's your favorite William & Mary tradition, or maybe a couple of things, I guess, what would you say?
Thank you for giving me the couple, because I'm going to take the out, because picking just one is really, really hard. Partly because I have chaired the commencement committee for the last decade. And prior to that, for now 30 years, I've been serving on the commencement committee. So I know all the traditions that are wrapped up in graduation weekend. Mm-hmm. But my favorite two, and I can really only get it down to those two. I don't know, it's going to be hard to pick which. One is Yule log. And Yule log I love because it is a uniquely William & Mary tradition, because it happens at a time when everybody needs a break together and a sense of community and a sense of celebration around who we are as a diverse group of people who've come together in this place at this time. So Yule log absolutely is one of my all-time favorites. I'd have to say, if I had to choose one, I would pick opening convocation, which is interesting because I didn't experience an opening convocation like the ones that we have now. It was a tradition resurrected by President Tim Sullivan in the early 1990s. But the experience of watching an entering class come through the Wren building to the cheers, ongoing cheers, applause, and truly warm welcome, the messages of belonging that students feel when they come through the building into that throng of people applauding and cheering. It's just breathtaking, and it never fails to bring a tear to my eye and to just fill me with a sense of love and community. So I guess I would say opening convocation. Now, I realize you have not had one.
Yeah, I haven't had one either.
COVID, so you have not had your opening convocation. I just want to assure you that it's in the work. It will be in the works.
Okay.
We are dedicated to our traditions. We've had to do a lot of things virtually, but opening convocation is not one that lends itself to a virtual replication. So we're just going to do it when it's safe to do it for you.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Right, so you touched for a second there on Yule log. So I'd like to, go a little bit further into that. You're famous for your "'Twas the Night "'Twas the Night After Finals" poem. I almost said before. "'Twas the Night After Finals" poem,
yes.
Which you present every year. And so I've seen a little bit of the behind the scenes of that process of, crafting the poem. But would you mind kind of sharing, what your creative process is for those who are watching and are curious?
I'll be curious to know if your observation of it is if it looks as chaotic as it feels in my head. I always joke, and it's actually not really a joke because it's kind of true, that writing that poem is one of the most stressful things that I have to do every year. There's a lot of pressure. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure to get it right, to put the right things into the poem. So I will say that rhyme.com is my friend. Yes. So I, get a lot of help from that. And I usually work off of a list. I make a list ahead of time of all the interesting things that have occurred during that previous semester, 6 months, so that each poem each year really is reflective of what your experience has been over this last period of time. And it's really kind of cool because now if I go back and I look at the poems over the years, it's like a little mini history of what was happening at William & Mary at the time. Like, oh, that was the year we got our mascot. Oh, that was the year that President Rowe started. And you can see over time the signature events that are reflected in those Yule log poems. So stressful, but fun.
Stressful, but I know that everybody really loves that poem. And I've enjoyed, even prior to being a student here, listening to that poem every year because it's always so great. I can't wait until I get to do my first in-person Yule log as a student and get to hear it.
Thanks. And you'll get the inside jokes this time.
I will. So, all right. So a lot of people don't know this, but this is not my first time being a student technically at William & Mary because
that's true.
I was also a student from the ages of about 10 months to 5 over at the William and Mary preschool. And now I've really kind of come full circle in that, my freshman dorm is probably about a football field away from that preschool. So, you've seen that kind of circle of life. And so what has that been like for you to experience that?
Wow. Okay. So this is the mom thing. I have to say a mom thing in this interview. And the mom thing I'm going to say is those years have passed so fast. I mean, truly, I have vivid memories of your preschool class on your little tow rope where you all have a little hand grab and you're walking together, that you would walk once a week over to the Williamsburg Regional Library and walk along the sidewalk in front of the campus center where my office is. And usually right in the middle of staff meeting, I hear, "Hey, Mac's mom, hey, Mac's mom." And I'd go to the window and open it up and look down and wave at you and all your little friends, and everybody would wave, and it made my day. And that doesn't seem like it's that long ago. I realized now that of course it was.
Yeah. I mean, it feels to me like a long time ago, but also I have distinct memories of walking by your window and like trying to stomp as loudly as I could to make sure you could hear us, as if the crowd of screaming and hollering toddlers was not enough for you to know that we were there. But
we knew you were there. My whole staff knew you were there.
Yeah, but I do have fond memories of that as well.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I mean, not many people can say they went to college the same place they went to preschool.
Probably very few.
Very few.
Very, very few.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So now as a student, I feel like I need to do my due diligence for the rest of my peers and asking, if you could share a piece of advice or, your 2 cents on how my friends and I can get the most out of our William and Mary experience. How can the student body really, how can we seek to do that, to thrive in the way that you were talking about before?
The best advice that I have on thriving, and it does come from my research, I looked at the ways that students engage. And there were several national benchmarks for college student engagement. And it was things like, being involved in active and collaborative learning and student faculty interaction and enriching educational experiences like co-curricular life and study abroad, and being in a supportive campus environment. And the variable that was most predictive of student well-being was supportive campus environment. And that speaks to me about relationships. Relationships with faculty, relationships with peers, and relationships with staff. And so I guess my first piece of advice is make the time to develop really meaningful relationships while you're here, because you have, as you said, incredible faculty who care and want to know you. You've got peers who live with you in your residence halls or who are in clubs and orgs with you, who have an amazing opportunity to enrich your life. Those relationships will sustain you and help you to thrive, truly. Other advice that I would give, just, as the Vice President for Student Affairs, is just be curious and be open. Never again are you going to be surrounded by so many interesting, talented young people, and have opportunities to do things together, to explore things together, to create things together, whether that's initiatives or even groups and clubs and orgs themselves. Don't rule anything out too soon. Be open to trying something different. I mean, you wouldn't be in improvisational theater if you hadn't taken a risk.
True.
And auditioned. So that's a perfect example of sometimes you have to take a risk. And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't, but you learn from every opportunity. And I would just say constantly be curious and be open and talk to people about what they love, because it's really exciting to hear other people talk about their passions as well.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, to give a quick word on what you might want, our donors to know about the Parent Fund or the Student Life Impact Fund, and how the gifts that they give today could make a difference in the William and Mary community and the William and Mary experience.
So private giving is so critical, and so much of what we do with and for students on an annual basis is made possible by the gifts that we receive on One Tribe, One Day, either to the Student Life Impact Fund or to the Parents Fund. When I think about You had asked me earlier about how campus has changed or what's different about William and Mary. I could have talked about the architecture and the landscape. And that is emblematic of other ways in which William Mary's changed. For example, the Cohen Career Center, which sits right smack in the middle of campus. It's a beautiful jewel box of a building with incredible programs and offerings. When I was a student here, the Career Center was a couple of offices down a hallway in Morton. It wasn't highly visible. It didn't have the breadth of offerings that we have now. And so much of what we do is enabled by private giving. For example, students who want to do really interesting, meaningful summer internships that may be unpaid. So private giving can help to offset the cost of living for students so they can do these unpaid summer experiences. When I think about health and wellness, for example, I mentioned earlier the opening of the McLeod Tyler Wellness Center. I mean, that center itself, B. McLeod and Goody Tyler, private supporters of William and Mary, deeply devoted to our student well-being. And so many of the programs and services that happen there happen because we have private support, whether it's for peer education, whether it's for counseling services, support for students in a whole variety of ways. So really, really grateful for the donors who support these funds, because it allows us the flexibility to do the things that we see as being of highest and best need. A lot of private money, for example, this year during COVID has gone to enhancing the outdoor environment for students, because that's where you all have had to spend a lot of time. So when I think about things like the fire pits and the cafe lighting outside and the Adirondack chairs that are now scattered all over campus, those are some examples of our ability to meet current student needs with private support. And even as we look ahead to the next year, we've allocated some parent fund dollars to sprucing up the Briggs Amphitheater at Lake Matoka, because that has been such a popular place for everything from cycling classes or spin classes, I guess we call them, to other movie showings and blacklight dance gatherings and things like that. So wanting to enhance the student experience in every way that we can, and private support really is invaluable in that regard. So I'm very thankful for all the donors, especially on One Tribe One Day, but all year long, who support what we do and support our students.
Absolutely. I think I can speak for the students as well, that we appreciate everything that the donors do to make sure that we can have a wonderful experience while we're here. Well, so that closes out most of the questions I had for you. So I do want to thank you for sitting here with me and listening to and answering some of my questions, particularly some of the really goofy ones that I had for you.
It's good to sit here and talk to you, because the irony is with you're living in Hunt Hall, which is a stone's throw from the campus center where my office is. But I've been working from home this year. So you really did leave home.
Yeah.
And left your mom behind, which is, as it should be.
We just swapped.
That's right.
Yeah.
This has been fun. Thank you. It's great to see you always. And I appreciate the chance to do this interview on One Tribe One Day.
All right. Would you like to close this out?
I will close this out by saying thank you to all of our donors for your steadfast support, especially during this time of pandemic. It has meant more than I can say to know that we have the support of family and friends from across the years and across the miles. And thank you for supporting us on One Tribe One Day. Our students thank you, and I do too. And that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. I love you, Mac.
Love you too.
See you soon.
Yep.
Bye.